Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of Talk Exchange. Today we have with us Donald Spencer and Julie Harman of the Monroe, Michigan chapter of the National Exchange Club. And they talk today about how they have really high expectations for their club and how their club is a little bit different, just in the sense that they really work hard to bring people together with and without disabilities. How it's really a club for all people. So, great episode today. Hope you enjoy, and we'll see you again next week.
Welcome to Talk Exchange. I'm Tracy Edwards, CEO of the National Exchange Club.
And I'm Christy Lindahl, Director of Communications.
Hi, Christy.
Hey, Tracy.
I hope everybody listening has this wonderful spring-like weather that we're enjoying so much here in Northwestern Ohio.
So needed. What a winter.
Definitely, definitely. So we're hoping that that continues. And, you know, this is a great time of year for our exchange clubs as we are into the last quarter of our exchange year. And that's generally when we see a big push for people wanting to, you know, get things to the finish line before June 30th, before the convention, when we get together and celebrate all those awesome, impactful things that clubs around the country do.
The heat is turned up in exchange.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So we're excited to have our guests with us today. They are Michigan District President Don Spencer and Region 7 Vice President Julie Harman. And Julie was previously, a few years ago, the Michigan District President. So great leaders from the state of Michigan. Welcome, Don and Julie.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For,
it's great to be here.
Thank you for taking time out of your day to talk with us. I know that Andrew Mailing from our national staff and I talked with Don and Julie last week about this awesome new exchange club they're building. So today we thought we'd get with them and talk about their vision for the club and what they think it means to Michigan and to the national network and really how it's going to impact their community and beyond. So we'd love to have this discussion today with Don and Julie. So kick us off. Tell us, Don, how did this idea start?
Well, this is something that Julie and I have been kicking back and forth for the last couple of years, and she had brought to me at that time when we first started talking about it some information about clubs that had been formed in other areas of the country that include adults with disabilities. And so my background is as I was a special education teacher, and then I was a county director of special education, and then ultimately I became the county superintendent of schools. But my background was in working with people with disabilities. Actually, as it turns out, my wife's background is working with people with disabilities.
Wow.
My daughter also is a teacher of students with disabilities. And my daughter-in-law is a teacher of students with disabilities. And my
We have the right
mother-in-law.
people working on this club.
I'm telling you, it's no wonder he joined Exchange. It's in his heart.
So when Julie brought this up to me, I knew it was doable. And I know that, you know, one of the things that we have heard really throughout my time with Exchange is, you know, to find an area of need. And one thing that I know is that when in Michigan, when students leave school and enter that adult world, there is a lack of opportunity for them. Still, even with, you know, some of the programs and services that exist, these students, after being really involved in the community, oftentimes that drops off. So as we talked about it, it became, you know, it jumped up in my mind that this was an area with great potential to, you know, have the people with and without disabilities working together to serve the community. And so that's kind of where we got started. So Julie wouldn't let me out of it.
Good.
She kept, you know, we kept talking about it, and then we just said, let's do this. We can do this.
Well, I'm so glad, and you know, I'm so thankful to have somebody with your vast experience in this field part of this project. But more than that, I knew about your professional experience. What I didn't know is your entire family involvement. And to me, that's what makes this so sweet,
Yes.
because that's truly where the practical road meets the road where these people really care, right?
Yes,
Like this is
yes.
your heart and your professional life all wrapped into one. So that's so
Yes.
great.
And I 100% believed that Julie was all over it. Let's
Definitely.
hear it, Julie.
Every
I
time
would
she
tell
brought
you,
it up, I kind of shook my head.
Yeah.
We can,
it
we can
was
do it.
it was one
But
of those. It was one of our baby step moves where we, continually went back and asked and said, "Okay, Don, we need to do this. Okay, Don, we need to do this." And one day he said, "I think we need to do this." And I went, "Yes."
Great minds.
Yes, well, that's the key to winning somebody over. Make them think it's their idea, right? Perfect. So, well, I love the name that you chose. You chose the Unity Exchange Club of
Yes.
Monroe, Michigan. It's going to be based in Monroe. Of course, the National Exchange Club's motto is Unity for Service. And, of course, we all love that motto and understand it. But Christy and I met with a local marketing person the other day, and he cited that motto. And he said, I just love Unity for Service in a world that's so divided. And I thought, perfect. It
Absolutely.
never goes out of style. But so you had the idea. Tell us, what was the first step then when you said, okay, let's go? How did you do it?
well, the first thing we wanted to do was to um, put this out into the community and to let people know that it was something that our club, our Monroe Club, was interested in sponsoring, and that it was. We also wanted to put out into the community what type of club it was going to be. And so one of the things that we did as part of that, so we got really nice press coverage initially, and a lot of
Good.
that was because of my background. I've had long-term relationships with our local press, and even though it's much smaller in size than it used to be, we still have those contacts. And she did the reporter did a wonderful job in presenting it to the community, even though what we've done has evolved since then. I think what got out into the community, which was important, was that one, this was a club where people with and without disabilities would have full membership. And so we wanted this to be really a club that was, a club made up of people from all over our community. We want and that what's evolved has kind of expanded on that notion, and we're bringing families into the exchange world, and but that first push was very important, I think, and we ended up with really a nice turnout for our initial session, which really we were just putting it together, and we wanted people to work with. And so then
We
what we did, go ahead.
we had a couple of organizational meetings in the late fall, and invited people, and we made sure that it was out there, and we had them sign in when they came, so we had contact information for these people, and it was very much an open forum to see if there was any real interest in forming a club like this. And we did. We were very fortunate because the people that were there we're very excited about it. So then we have just continually grown from there. I mean, Don has done a great job. He's done a lot of legwork. He has a lot of contacts. We have some collaborative efforts with a couple of our local organizations that tend to deal with the disabled. And one of them is joining as a business membership. So we feel very fortunate, and really, I can't take much credit. Don's done a lot of the legwork.
Well,
It takes a team.
Yes.
well, yes, and one of the things that I think we know, and that I've heard through exchange a lot, is that we bring different skill sets. We come from different backgrounds, and I think Julie and I, Julie's in the finance arena, and I was in the educational arena. And I think our skill sets really match up well in terms of being able to plan and work together. And I think that's been a real plus for me. I know it has. And she's been very valuable in terms of her knowledge of the ins and outs and of the the exchange world, if you will. And she's had to bring me along on some of these things. But a couple of the things that we did that I thought was really important was we hooked up with the Able and Ready Club in North Carolina, and I had a conversation with them, and then we actually had a Zoom meeting with our group with Kevin Barker from Texas, who has experience with an inclusive club, and so he spoke with our whole group at one of our meetings, and because I think people. And maybe it's our, expectations that parents have sometimes that we have to have high expectations for everybody, So we wanted to start with that, and so Kevin was able to really help us with that. I think with the folks that were present when he spoke, and that was important for them to hear from someone who's done this with a club, and I think especially with ARC, who's the business membership that Julie was referring to, that was very helpful with them to kind of help them put their arms around how this could work as an inclusive club.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, if we could backtrack for a second, I want to highlight something that Don said. And the great thing about exchange is that you build and play on each other's strengths.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, and that's what's made this project successful.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mhm.
let me ask you, Don. Julie mentioned that you were having your informational meetings in the fall. Now we're entering the spring. How have you kept that momentum going? I think that's something our listeners
Yes.
might be thinking.
Well, first thing I did was, we kept track of who was at the meetings, and so they became part of our communication network, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And for each meeting, we would add people to that. One of the things that we did after we saw who responded to the newspaper article was we reached out to some of the groups in our community who serve people with disabilities. And actually, we're still in the process of doing that to get their support. And so, that was a big part of this too. It just kind of, we kept building on it. And we did have a couple people who indicated that, they didn't think it was right for them, just two,
Mm-hmm.
actually.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And, but the rest have all stayed with it. We have parents, grandparents, we have providers,
That's awesome.
from different groups, and we're kind of right now putting the closing pitch to them, if you will,
Good.
and
So, yeah.
yeah, but we
So what I
we
hear
have
is
our
you've built
club.
a network.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
you
Yeah.
built a network is what you did.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I've been retired for, I've been retired since 2014, so I wasn't sure how much of my network was still out there, but they're still there. I just went to an art
Good.
dance, and my wife and I went, and we set up an exchange, kind of a table with all exchange
Oh,
stuff,
Cool.
awesome.
and it was fantastic. And my
So
wife and
you're
I had a
already
wonderful time.
you're already bringing those groups together.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even the club's not even formed yet, but those
Yeah.
those
Mm-hmm.
groups are already networking. I love that.
Yes. We
Mm-hmm.
wanted to. We
Mm-hmm.
definitely wanted the awareness level to get out there,
Yeah.
and what we were doing. We wanted to make sure it was presented in a way that we wanted it portrayed, which
Yeah.
is actually we've had a luncheon exchange club for many years, over 100 years, and
Right.
now we're going to have a PM club, and that club's going to what we've been saying is it's a whole new way to exchange.
I like
And
that.
Yeah,
so, we want to be different.
sure. Who doesn't think differently in the morning versus the evening, right?
Exactly. Perfect.
Very
Yeah.
true. So the other idea or the other thing that I think we have going for us with this club is a lot of when other clubs were being formed, it was more about the people with the disabilities, and this is about bringing people with and without disabilities together, so that we can all work together to make the Monroe community a better community, and make them more aware of just because somebody's disabled does not mean that they are not a viable person and can't get out there and hand out flags and have fundraisers. We've got our first fundraiser plan. We're doing a can drive, so anybody that has returnable cans are going to bring them, and we're going to take them and turn them in, so we have a little bit of club money to work with.
Nice.
Good. So that was going to be my next question. I know you're working toward April 29th, which is the big opening event, so to speak.
Yep.
And Andrew and I are excited to come and join you for that event. What happens next? Do you have a fundraiser planned? What does the schedule look like? What do some of the projects look like and activities for the club?
So we actually have a more organizational meeting on April 8th.
Okay, good.
And we are planning, to talk about the officers and the directors to see who wants to fill those positions, and, to get a fundraising chairperson in place and a program chairperson, kind of on the same order that we run the Monroe Exchange Club, or the Exchange Club of Monroe at lunch. But then we can build our schedule from there. Don and I have kind of talked about it, and we think that maybe meeting every other week for April, May, and June would be a good thing. And then maybe having a picnic in August, July, and some of the other, things, and then start back again hard in the fall with the every other week, but give them a chance in July and August, unless they want to meet. And if they want to meet, well, we'll work it out. Because we're kind of leaving it up. While we are the people that are starting the club or forming the club or have come up with the idea, we want them to run their club.
Yes.
We are not in this to run the club. We are basically going to be there to guide them and as leaders, but we want the members to be the ones to make those decisions.
Right.
Yeah, as it should be.
Absolutely. So, what advice do you have to give? I'm sure some of our listeners are thinking, I would like to build a club. I'd like to build an inclusive club like this one. What advice do you have for our listeners based on your experience?
I I I think the number one thing is what I sense in Michigan from a lot of clubs is their community already has a club, and so it's they almost, I think, in some ways, sometimes they see it as almost a threat, and that's why it's important to look at your community and um, you know uh, find an area of need.
Right.
And that's why with when Julie came to me with the idea of working with people with disabilities at the club level, it just struck me as it's just so needed.
Yes.
We don't, we have a part of our population, 20% of our population that we're not asking to serve.
Mm-hmm.
And so we really have focused on the service aspect of this club. We're all going to serve here, and some of that may involve mentoring, and others who we need to help figure out how to serve, and we'll do it together. But it really that's what we focused on, the service component. This is a club for all people.
Well, of course, we love that. And, it just makes you think, wow, why haven't we been doing this all along? These more inclusive clubs, because you've heard us talk at meetings about how really an exchange club should represent the demographics of the community, right?
Yes.
And so I
Yes.
like that you're working with that mindset and getting us closer to achieving that. It should be, if we're truly working in unity for service, everyone's welcome and everyone should be involved and everyone wants to serve and it makes the community better.
And everyone's represented.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just,
You know, Tracy, oh,
go ahead. No, go ahead,
um,
Julie.
one of the things about building a club, it can be very overwhelming, and just the thought of it can push you back before you even start. And I think my one recommendation would be find an area. Doesn't have to be within your community. It could be 15 miles away. It could be 20 miles away,
Yep.
but keep it close, so that you have access and you're not driving a half a day to get to it. And have an informational meeting and have things available, or send out brochures to local businesses to see what kind of what you can generate as far as people being interested, what kind of interest you can generate, and then just go from there and build on it. And while some clubs come together very quickly, some clubs don't. And it's just, you can't give up. You just have to keep trying. It's just like, I didn't give up on Don. I just kept pestering.
Yeah. So glad you persevered,
Yay.
Julie.
True story.
But to that end, though, I will say that Don and Julie have been in constant contact with us.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Utilizing our staff and everything that we're willing to offer. I think there's been great synergy there, and I feel like it's helped you guys keep your momentum going too. Having that responsiveness and those ideas coming from us.
Definitely.
Yes, I think the thing that I felt was helpful to me was when I first got into some initial discussions with Andrew about the club.
And Andrew is
And
our membership development
yes,
director.
Yes.
Yes, for
yes.
those who don't know.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
And I could, I wouldn't say he wasn't discouraging to me, but he was stressing the importance of having a club that represented the community and wasn't necessarily for certain types of people, or and I thought, and that I of course I always thought that way, but when having him say it, I got it, and I wanted to. And so for us, one of the things that I've really focused on is I want this to be affiliated with our community, not with a program, not with a um, you know, one of the services in town. I want support from them.
Yes.
I want to work with them, but really, this is a community effort. We're not attached to a program or another institution or anything like that. And yesterday, when I spoke with the administrative team at the intermediate school district in Michigan, that's who operates programs and services for children and adults through the age of 26, actually, with disabilities. I think that rang really that rang very well to them. That's what they want to. They want to when young adults graduate and they enter the community, they're looking for options. They want these people, like all of us. We want to fit into our community. We want to have meaning, and I think Exchange really offers that to everybody. Certainly to me it has, and I think it will to other people.
Absolutely. The idea of an inclusive club will really present itself where the community will find great value in having this type of a club in the community.
Yeah, we could not have done what we've accomplished had it not been for a lot of the support from the national staff, including Christy for making sure we get our right branding. That was very important.
That's very
Well,
important.
Here I
yes.
come, the branding police.
Now we did want to. One of the things that we wanted to do was to kind of set ourselves as an entity in our community,
Sure.
to establish our own identity. And I think when we sent the information that we had put together into the national to get their approval, actually, Christy didn't change much, but I thought what was changed actually made it better.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I
Mhm.
encourage anybody building a club
Yeah.
to reach out to us. We are here to help make it easier.
Definitely, definitely. Well, we appreciate both of you and bringing this inclusive club to the Monroe, Michigan community, and we look forward to just seeing the impact and watching you grow. Thank you both for your commitment to growing Exchange.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Our pleasure. It's been such an enjoyable discussion. If you would like more information about how to build an inclusive club in your community, please visit nationalexchangeclub.org and visit that too if you'd like to learn more about the National Exchange Club's impact across the country. And thanks for listening to this episode of Talk Exchange. Awesome. Wow. That was a great discussion.
Yeah.
You two are amazing. Thank you for getting this to pass. We're going to have you on again probably 6 months out and just
Success.
see what's going on.
You guys are
Watch
like
your success.
Energizer bunnies.
I know.